Hello everyone. I actually have a new project going on right now, and don't worry, I am still doing some augmented reality projects, but for the time being I was interested in trying to actually augment VR instead. So what you'll see of this project is I wanted to see if you get hurt in the game, can you make it to where you can get hurt in real life? Now of course this sounds a little crazy, but you can do it safely. What I did is I actually did a simple Arduino setup here. Arduino, if you're not familiar with it, is a sort of a microcontroller platform using the AT Mega, I think it is. And I have basically from here just a simple relay setup here, and then using the Arduino for some serial communication to some ports. Very, very simple setup. The real trick was actually this application here. Let me see here. This application, I'll release the source code for. Essentially, what it does is it is doing what like games do when they cheat. Is that it's reading the process memory, and instead of me writing to the process memory like what I'd be doing if I was cheating. For example, if I wanted to peg my health at 100% all the time, that's what I would do. I'd read the current process memory and then peg the value at a certain value I want. Instead, I'm using it as a way to read what the current health is in the game, and then from there, I am using that to send a signal to the microcontroller that I can use. Now you can see here, I got a COM port. I got whether or not the platform is 64-bit, the type of value you're looking for, number of ports, and so on. You got your memory address there, the valid range of that value you're looking for. That's important because I did not want the software to trigger if, for example, the memory had some random values when it was first starting up. So that helps a little bit there by making sure it ignores any random values. I had used Cheat Engine here. It's some good software, and what that allowed me to do was essentially try to find the memory address that's static for a particular game. That's important because if the memory address, if you just search for a memory address that holds a particular value, like your health, you're likely to find a dynamic address. The dynamic address will change if you restart the game, for example. So it's not particularly useful. It can work, but it's not useful all the time. So instead, what I did is it's also familiar with the cheating game circles, is use it to find the what's called the base memory address. The base memory address allows you to hopefully find the address that is from a fixed offset from the executable file. And what that allows you to do is then when the game is restarted, you don't actually lose what the value is there. So you can reference that same memory address each time the game is started, and it will still provide you with the health. Now, one thing you will see is, so you got the Arduino here, and then here I have tens unit pads, and then over here I have a tens unit. Normally this is used for muscle stimulation, but I actually have it set and designed specifically to cause, for lack of a better phrase, to cause pain. But it is designed with safety in mind, which is why I decided to use it as my base. And from here, I can edit or control the intensity. Now this is a bit tricky to figure out as far as what intensity you want. Thankfully this one has 2 ports, so let me shift this over here. I'll turn this one on, and from there I can actually set the intensity that I want. The intensity actually goes up a pretty crazy amount. It goes from what is that? It's 0 to 8. I found just 3 is enough for me, and I have it set at 100 megahertz continuous because the game, it's not going to be running all the time. It's only going to be running when I get hurt. Now what I can do here is the relay is actually triggered specifically from going low. So what I can do here is if I touch this wire here to ground, that should trigger the relay. So here, my arm may bounce a little bit. There you go. So you definitely very strong. Arm definitely bounced there. So let me put this back into the proper port here. And this is going to be kind of hard to show, but if I click into this game here. Alright. So it's going to be kind of hard to show because the pads are on my arm and I'll be playing this game here. So here, if I go down this area here, hopefully I'll run into an enemy and I can get hurt, and then you'll see kind of how it reacts. And I'm playing this game right now with sort of one hand, so this is pretty tricky here. So there's some spiders down here. This right here is Skyrim. So here's some spiders. There you go. See, there you go. So if I get hurt, it gets a pretty strong shock there. The shock is dependent on the level of decrease that I have in health. So if I start at, say, 100, and then from there it decreases and I go to 1, that's going to be a decrease by a factor of 10, and that's what this is set for here. This code here is set to factor in the percentage as a factor of 1 through 10, and that multiplies by a 50 millisecond delay. The delay is how long it holds that shock. So if I am hit and I get basically a complete 10 decrease, I end up getting a shock for 500 milliseconds, whereas if I get a decrease of 1, or meaning like a 10% decrease, roughly within that range, I get a 50 millisecond decrease, or a 50 millisecond delay, which is short but enough to still get your attention. What I really designed this for, though, this right here is just a proof of concept. I designed it for VR. Essentially, you can imagine, if you're in a game and you are in VR in particular, having a sensation of pain that can actually really, really change your play style and depending on the type of game you have. For example, I was playing Doom 3, the VR mod for it, and then I ran into issues where, sure, I was being attacked, sure, I had some feedback of that, but it wasn't really that serious, and I actually, even at some point, I didn't even notice that I was getting hit, and there's actually an enemy sort of near my feet. That makes it kind of tricky to play the game, but it also makes you kind of too cavalier, in my opinion, with the play style. The idea of this sort of thing is that essentially your play style should be altered because it doesn't really cause pain, it causes discomfort, though. That's enough, in my opinion, to change your play style. As I said, I'll be releasing the source code here for both the Arduino as well as the VR feedback application you see on the bottom there. And hopefully someone finds it useful. The tricky part, though, is finding the memory addresses, and since I don't have all the games myself, the people who download this application will have to find those for their game. But it is designed to have a text file, read rather, so that you can load up presets. So if people do find certain memory addresses for certain games, they can share those as well.